To get the most out of this video, follow the subtitles while listening to the narration in English. Use headphones to better capture the pronunciation and intonation. Try repeating the words and phrases out loud as this will help reinforce memorization.
The rain was falling hard on the small city streets. Cars splashed through puddles and people rushed by under umbrellas, their heads low. A young woman stood at the corner, her coat soaked, her hair clinging to her face. She held a small notebook tightly in her hands, shielding it from the rain as best she could. She spotted a tiny cafe with a warm glow coming from the windows. The sign above the door read, "The Little Cafe on the Corner." Without thinking twice, she pushed the door open and stepped inside. A bell jingled as she entered. The smell of coffee, cinnamon, and fresh bread wrapped around her like a hug. The warmth of the room touched her face instantly, and she sighed with relief. There were only a few people inside, quietly reading or talking in soft voices. Wooden tables, cozy chairs, and dim lights made the space feel calm and welcoming. The woman walked to the counter, brushing rain from her sleeves. She gave a shy smile to the barista and pointed at a photo on the menu. "One cappuccino, please," she said slowly. The barista smiled back. "Coming right up." She found a table by the window, sat down, and placed her wet notebook on the wooden surface. It was filled with simple English phrases like, "How are you?" and "Can I have a coffee?" She flipped through the pages, whispering the phrases under her breath. Outside, the rain kept falling. But inside, the cafe was peaceful. Felt like a good place to stay, maybe even to learn. She wrapped her hands around her warm cup, smiled to herself, and took a deep breath. The woman sipped her cappuccino slowly, enjoying its warmth. She looked around the cafe, observing the quiet rhythm of the morning. A couple laughed softly near the corner, and a man in a coat read a book beside a steaming teapot. She took out a pen and underlined the phrase, "Nice to meet you." Then she wrote a new one beneath it. "I like coffee." She repeated both out loud, barely above a whisper. "Nice to meet you. I like coffee." A drop of rain ran down the window beside her, and she watched it slide, following its path with her eyes. Then, suddenly, the door flew open. A large, fluffy golden dog bounded into the cafe, its fur wet and tail wagging. Customers gasped and chuckled as the dog ran around in a circle, shaking water everywhere. The woman laughed, surprised. The dog stopped right in front of her table, tongue out and eyes bright. It looked up at her as if asking, "Is it okay if I sit here?" She reached out gently and patted its head. "Hello," she said, smiling. "You're very wet." The barista came rushing over, laughing. "Oh no, not again," he said. "Sorry." He always escapes when it rains. The woman giggled and looked down at the dog. "He's friendly." "Yes," the barista said, catching his breath. "He loves people." The woman smiled, feeling her shoulders relax. For the first time in a long while, she didn't feel nervous about speaking. Just a little unsure. But that moment, warm, light, unexpected, felt like a small beginning. She looked back at her notebook and added a new line. "He is friendly." The next morning, the woman stood at the corner again. The rain was gone, replaced by clear skies and a soft breeze. Her notebook was tucked safely in her bag, and she held a small umbrella just in case. She glanced across the street at the little cafe on the corner. The golden dog was sitting by the window, watching people pass by. When he saw her, he perked up and wagged his tail. She smiled. Something about that cafe felt safe. Familiar. She crossed the street and stepped inside. The bell above the door rang again. The same warm smells greeted her, coffee, cinnamon, and something sweet baking in the oven. The barista looked up and grinned. "Good morning," he said cheerfully. She returned the smile and replied, "Good morning." He raised his eyebrows, pleasantly surprised. "You remembered." She nodded shyly and pointed at the same picture on the menu. "One cappuccino, please." "You got it." She returned to her table by the window. The golden dog was already there, tail thumping softly against the floor. She reached down to pet him. "Hello again," she said more confidently this time. "Nice to see you." She opened her notebook and began reading aloud. "My name is," she paused, then softly added, "Lena." "My name is Lena." She had practiced saying it many times, but this was the first time she said it aloud in the cafe. Felt important, like she had just introduced herself to the place and maybe even to the day ahead. Sighed, the morning sun lit up the street. Inside, Lena opened her heart a little more to a new routine. As Lena sipped her cappuccino, the door opened again. A young man stepped inside, holding a small book. He had short curly hair, glasses, and a calm smile. He ordered a tea and looked around for a seat. Noticing the empty chair at Lena's table, he pointed to it politely. "May I sit here?" Lena hesitated for a second, then nodded. "Yes, please." He sat down and smiled. "Thank you. I'm Max." She took a breath. "My name is Lena." "Nice to meet you, Lena." "Nice to meet you too." They both laughed a little at the formal exchange. Felt like the kind of conversation she had practiced in her notebook 100 times, but this time it was real. Max opened his book. It was a beginner's English workbook, filled with simple sentences and exercises. He noticed her notebook and leaned forward. "Are you learning English too?" Lena nodded. "Yes. I practice here." "That's great," Max said. "Maybe we can practice together." Lena smiled, a little surprised but happy. "Yes, I like that." The golden dog stood between them, tail wagging like he approved of the idea. Max leaned down and gave him a pat. "What's his name?" Lena asked. "I think it's Bruno," Max said. "That's what the barista calls him." "Bruno," Lena repeated, giggling. "He is friendly." They both laughed again. The moment was light and easy. They began practicing together, taking turns reading short sentences from their books. Lena repeated phrases after Max, and he encouraged her gently. For the first time, Lena didn't feel alone in her learning. She felt like she had a partner, and maybe, just maybe, a new friend. A few days later, Lena arrived at the cafe a bit earlier than usual. The morning was bright, and the street was busy with people heading to work or school. She had started to recognize some of the faces, like the woman who always walked her little white dog and the boy with the red backpack who waved at the barista through the window. Inside the cafe, Max was already at their usual table. He looked up and smiled when he saw her. "Good morning, Lena." "Good morning, Max." They had grown more comfortable speaking together. Their greetings felt easy now, like part of a routine they both looked forward to. Max held up a flyer. "Look at this," he said. "The cafe is hosting an English conversation night this Friday. People come to practice English in small groups. Lena read the flyer slowly. Practice. English. Friday, 6 o'clock. He nodded. You should come. It's a good chance to speak more. Lena looked unsure. With many people? Yes, Max said gently. But they are learning too. Like us. She bit her lip, thinking. The idea made her nervous. Speaking to Max felt safe. Speaking to strangers? That was something else. I don't know, she said softly. I'm afraid. That's okay, Max said. You don't have to decide now. Lena nodded. Till she folded the flyer carefully and placed it inside her notebook. The golden dog patted over and rested his head on her foot. Made her feel a little braver. Maybe she didn't have to say yes today. But maybe soon. Over the next few days, Lena couldn't stop thinking about the flyer. Every time she opened her notebook to study, the folded paper slipped out like a quiet reminder. On Thursday, she met Max at the cafe again. They practiced as usual, reading aloud and laughing over silly mistakes. But Lena seemed distracted. Is everything okay? Max asked. She hesitated, then pulled out the flyer. I want to go, she said quietly. But I don't know if I can. Max nodded. You don't have to be perfect, Lena. No one is. You just have to try. She looked at him. But what if I make mistakes? You will, he said kindly. We all do. That's how we learn. Lena smiled. His words were simple, but they made her feel understood. Supported. Okay, she said finally. I will go. But only if you come too. Of course, Max said. We'll go together. They high-fived like teammates, and even Bruno barked once, as if in agreement. On Friday morning, Lena woke up early. She repeated some phrases in the mirror. Hi, my name is Lena. Nice to meet you. I'm learning English. They sounded better now, more confident, more hers. That afternoon, she picked out her favorite scarf, the one her mother gave her when she first moved to the city. Felt like a small piece of home. By the time she reached the cafe, the sun was setting and golden light filled the windows. Max was waiting outside. You ready? He asked. Lena took a deep breath, smiled, and said, Yes. Let's go. And just like that, she took another brave step forward. When Lena and Max stepped into the cafe that Friday evening, the place looked different. The usual soft music was replaced by cheerful chatter, and the tables were pushed together to form cozy circles. Warm light glowed from the hanging lamps, casting a golden hue over everyone's faces. Bruno was curled up in his usual spot near the window, his tail wagging slowly. Wow, Lena whispered. So many people. Max nodded. Don't worry. We'll stay together. A friendly woman with curly hair and a wide smile approached them. Hi. Welcome to conversation night. First time. Lena gave a small nod. Yes. I'm Julia, the woman said. Just pick a table and join in. Everyone's here to practice. No pressure. They joined a table with 3 other people, an older man from Brazil, a shy girl from Japan, and a tall teenager who said he was from Germany. All of them smiled and introduced themselves slowly, carefully. When it was Lena's turn, her hands trembled a little. but she remembered what she practiced. "Hi," she said. "My name is Lena. I am from Ukraine. I like coffee and dogs." Everyone smiled. The man laughed softly. "Me too. Coffee is my best friend." The group began chatting using simple English. Some words were wrong, others forgotten, but no one laughed. Everyone tried. Everyone helped. Max leaned in and whispered, "You're doing great." Lena's heart fluttered. She wasn't just surviving English anymore. She was speaking it with real people in real life. And for the first time, it felt exciting. As the evening continued, the group played a small word game. Julia handed out cards with simple questions like, "What do you like to eat?" or "What is your favorite color?" When Lena's turn came, she picked a card and read aloud slowly, "What do you do on the weekend?" She looked at the group and waited. The girl from Japan giggled nervously. "I sleep and watch cartoons." Table laughed kindly, and Lena did too. "Me too," she said. "I watch English cartoons for practice." The older man added, "I cook. On Sunday I make fajota." Lena didn't know the word, but she asked, "What is fajota?" He explained with gestures and simple words. "It's beans meat, very good." Everyone nodded, and Max chimed in, "We should all try it one day." Lena was amazed. In one night, she had learned 3 new words, laughed with strangers, and used English in ways that felt real. She wasn't just studying it anymore, she was living it. At the end of the night, Julia gathered everyone together and said, "Thank you for coming. Keep practicing. Keep speaking. And remember, mistakes are part of the journey." As people began to leave, Lena turned to Max. "Thank you for coming with me," she said. "I told you it wouldn't be so bad," he smiled. She laughed. "It was good. I want to come again." "You should," he said. "You're a natural." On the way home, Lena felt taller somehow. Not because her English was perfect, it wasn't, but because she had tried, and that made all the difference. She walked home with a lighter heart, a stronger voice, and one simple thought: "I can do this." The following week, Lena sat in her favorite seat by the cafe window, a notebook open beside her coffee. Bruno was curled up at her feet, and the afternoon sun painted golden patterns on the floor. She was reviewing new vocabulary, busy, friendly, delicious, words she had learned at conversation night. Each one now had a memory attached, a face, a voice. Cafe door opened, and Max walked in, holding his phone high. "Lena, you got a message." She blinked, confused. "A message?" He handed her the phone. "It's from Julia. She wants to know if you can help next Friday's event. As a volunteer." Lena's heart skipped a beat. "Me? But my English." "She said you were great. Friendly, helpful. She remembers how you asked about fajota." Lena looked down at the message. It was short, simple. "Hi, Lena. Would you like to help at the next event? You were amazing last week." She hesitated. She still made mistakes. Sometimes she didn't understand everything. But she also remembered how she had smiled, how others had smiled back, how it had felt to be included. I think I want to say yes," she whispered. Max smiled. "Then say yes." Lena typed the message carefully. "Yes, I would love to help. Thank you." She hit send, and just like that, something changed. She wasn't just learning anymore. She was becoming part of something. All week, Lena prepared. She listened to English podcasts while walking Bruno. She practiced introducing herself in front of the mirror. Hi, my name is Lena. Welcome to Conversation Night. Max quizzed her with flashcards in the evenings. How do you say nice to meet you? She grinned. Nice to meet you. Perfect. Now, how do you say please sit here? Please sit here. He gave her a thumbs up. You're ready. By Friday, Lena felt nervous but proud. She had written helpful phrases in her notebook just in case. Can I help you? Do you understand? It's okay to make mistakes. At the cafe, Julia greeted her with a warm hug. Thank you so much for coming. You'll help welcome people and keep the conversation going. Just be yourself. Lena nodded, gripping her notebook. Okay, I'll try. Soon the guests began to arrive. Some looked nervous, just like she had felt. One woman stood alone near the door, holding her coat tight. Lena walked over and smiled. Hi, my name is Lena. Welcome. The woman blinked, surprised. Oh, hello. I am from Turkey. First time. Lena nodded gently. Me too, last week. They both laughed. You can sit here, Lena said, guiding her to a table. No worry. We learn together. By the end of the evening, Lena had helped 3 people start conversations. She'd answered questions. She'd made mistakes, but no one cared. And as Julia clapped her hands to end the night, she looked at Lena and said, You were wonderful. Lena smiled, her cheeks warm. She was no longer just a learner. She was now a helper. And that made her feel stronger than ever. The weeks passed and Lena's confidence grew. Every Friday she returned to the cafe, eager to volunteer and practice English. She no longer felt like an outsider. She was part of the group, a helper and a student at the same time. It was a balance she was starting to enjoy. But one Friday, Julia pulled her aside. Lena, she said with a smile, I have something special for you today. Lena raised an eyebrow. Special? I need someone to lead the group tonight, Julia explained. You've been doing so well. Do you feel ready? Lena's heart skipped. Led? She was still learning so much. What if she made a mistake in front of everyone? But then she thought about the first time she came to the cafe, the nerves, the doubts, and how far she'd come since then. I'll try, Lena said, her voice steady but soft. I'll do my best. Julia patted her on the shoulder. I know you will. The cafe started to fill with people, just like every other Friday. This time, though, the pressure was different. Lena felt the eyes of the group on her as she stood up, holding a piece of paper with the evening's schedule. Her hand shook a little. Hello, Lena began, smiling. My name is Lena. Tonight we practice English. She paused to let the words settle. Then she took a deep breath. I'll ask you some questions. You answer. It's okay if you make a mistake. We learn together. Everyone nodded. It was a small step, but it was hers. Lena began the session by asking the group simple questions. What did you do this week? What is your favorite food? Slowly, everyone joined in, speaking in English, though their words weren't always perfect. The shy girl from Japan spoke a little more confidently than usual, and the older man from Brazil smiled as he described his week at work. First, Lena felt her nerves take over. She glanced at Max, who was sitting in the corner, offering her a reassuring nod. His calm presence made her feel a little braver. Then came a moment that nearly made Lena's heart stop. A young man from Italy raised his hand. "I don't understand the question." Lena froze. He was looking at her, waiting for her to help. She hadn't prepared for this. She tried to remember the words. "It's okay," she said slowly, repeating the question. "What do you do this week?" The man smiled softly. "Oh, I understand now. Thank you." Lena exhaled in relief and felt a rush of pride. She had helped someone. She had found the words. As the night went on, Lena led more discussions. She spoke a little slower when needed, used gestures to explain things, and asked for clarification when she didn't understand. Everyone was patient. Everyone was supportive. By the time the evening ended, Lena felt different, stronger, more capable. Julia came over and hugged her. "You did amazing tonight. I'm so proud of you." Lena smiled back, her heart swelling. She had been scared, unsure, but now she felt like a true part of the community. And that was all because she had dared to try. As the group left the cafe, Lena stepped outside into the cool night air. She felt taller somehow, her steps lighter. The fear that had once held her back had finally started to fade. She didn't need to be perfect. She just needed to keep trying. And that was enough. The next week, Lena woke up earlier than usual. She felt energized, excited, and ready for what lay ahead. The weather was crisp, the air smelled of fresh rain, and as she walked to the cafe, she noticed things she hadn't before. The vibrant colors of the flowers on the street, the chatter of people talking in English, the small moments of connection that made the world feel a little warmer. Today was special. Today was the day she would present her very first English speech. The thought made her stomach flip. It wasn't a huge speech, just a few minutes of sharing her experience at conversation night. But it felt big to her. Felt like a milestone. When Lena arrived at the cafe, she found Max already setting up. Julia was there too, organizing the space for the evening event. "Are you ready?" Julia asked, her eyes sparkling. Lena took a deep breath. "I think so." Max smiled. "You've been preparing for this, Lena. You've already come so far." Lena nodded. She had been practicing her speech every morning, reading it aloud, listening to the way the words sounded. She had written it in simple English, using words she was comfortable with. "I'll be there with you," Julia said, giving her a gentle pat on the back. "If you need anything, just ask." Lena felt her heart race, but she also felt something new. It was a kind of calm confidence she hadn't felt before. The support of her friends and the knowledge she had gained made her feel ready. As the evening drew closer, the cafe began to fill with familiar faces. People were chatting, laughing, and sharing stories. Lena found herself at the front of the room, standing next to Julia, holding her notes. When Lena's turn came, she stepped up to the front of the room, her hands shaking slightly. She glanced at Max, who gave her a thumbs up, and then at Julia, who smiled warmly. Lena cleared her throat and looked out at the audience. They were all waiting. She could do this. "Hello, everyone," Lena began, her voice a little quieter than she had hoped, but still strong. My name is Lena. I am here to talk about how I learned English. She paused, letting the words sink in. Her mind raced, but she remembered everything she had practiced. She focused on the simple words she had chosen. I started not knowing much. I was scared. But I came here, and people were kind. They helped me. Now I am helping too. I am learning and I am teaching. Her voice was steady now. She had found a rhythm. She spoke about the first time she had come to the cafe, how nervous she had been. She shared the stories of the friends she had made, the lessons she had learned, and how each conversation had helped her grow. As she spoke, Lena noticed something. The audience wasn't just listening. They were smiling, nodding, connecting with her words. The language was no longer just a tool for learning. It was a bridge that brought them all together. When Lena finished, the room was silent for a moment, and then everyone clapped. The sound was like music to her ears. Her heart swelled with pride, and a smile spread across her face. Julia stepped up beside her. That was amazing, Lena, she said softly. You've come so far. Lena felt tears prickle at her eyes, but they were tears of happiness. She had done it. She had spoken in front of a group, and more than that, she had shared her story. As the night went on, Lena realized something. She was no longer afraid. English was no longer a wall between her and the world. It was her connection to it. After the speech, Lena couldn't help but feel like a different person. Her nerves had melted away, replaced by a quiet confidence. She had shared her journey and people had listened. It wasn't just the words that mattered, it was the courage to speak them. The next week, when Lena walked into the cafe, she felt like she was entering a space she truly belonged. The familiar faces were there, just as they always were. Max, Julia, the shy girl from Japan, and the friendly older man from Brazil. They were all here, waiting to continue learning just like her. Hey, Lena. Max greeted her with a smile. How do you feel now that you've given your speech? Lena grinned. It feels amazing. I never thought I could do it. Julia walked over and gave her a big hug. You did more than just speak. You inspired everyone. You showed them that learning English is a journey we're all on together. Lena felt a warmth spread through her chest. I couldn't have done it without all of you. You've earned this confidence, Julia said. And it's just the beginning. That night, Lena felt something she hadn't felt before, a deep sense of belonging. She was no longer just a student trying to learn English. She was an active participant in a community that valued her not just for her language skills, but for who she was. Cafe felt like home. As the weeks passed, Lena continued to grow. She took on new challenges, volunteered to help newcomers, and even started leading smaller discussion groups. Her vocabulary expanded, and her speaking skills became more natural. The fear she once had of speaking English in front of others had vanished. One evening, after a particularly lively session, Julia pulled Lena aside. Lena, she said, I have something I want to ask you. Lena looked at her curiously. What is it? How would you like to help us with the new beginners class we're starting? Julia asked. We've had more people join, and I think you'd be a great mentor. Lena's eyes widened. Me? A mentor? Julia smiled. You've come so far. You understand what it's like to start from the beginning, and you can help others in ways that no one else can. Lena paused. The thought of helping others who were just beginning their journey in English filled her with excitement. She remembered her own struggles and how much she had learned from those who had supported her along the way. "I'd love to," Lena said with a grin. That night, as Lena walked home, she felt like the world was opening up to her in ways she had never imagined. She wasn't just learning English anymore, she was using it to connect with others, to teach, to inspire. Lena knew that this was just the beginning of a new chapter in her life. And no matter what came next, she was ready.